Well, good evening, YouTube, and welcome to another episode of the Albino Rhino Beer Review. Today you have the Rhino. We're looking at this beer right here. This beer is from Sawdust City Brewing Company in Gravenhurst, Ontario. This is sagemehl stadt. It's a fest beer. A fest beer. It's an Oktoberfest beer. 5% alcohol by volume. Today at work, I was actually mentioned something by one of my coworkers. He came up to me and he goes, "You know, I watched a couple of your videos, and the one thing I can say is, in some of the videos, your voice sounds very quiet or hushed and held back." He goes, and I watched the video and I go, "That's not Chad. You have like a radio announcer voice." And that's what really pulled me in at first. What happened? And I'm like, man, sometimes, and I'm only bringing up this story in case some of you notice this, sometimes I review when I get home from work. I get home from work at night. My family's asleep. My kids are asleep. Everybody's asleep. I can't be loud. So I gotta kind of be quiet and talk a little lower. But yeah, usually I do have the pronounced voice. But anyway, here we are. Beautiful beer. Crystal clear. Beautiful amber color. White head, slightly off-white. Not much of a snap, crackle, pop. There's not much going on there, which is perfectly fine. You wouldn't expect much either with the little bit of head that's there. In all honesty, I think this might be the most boring style of beer. Oh no, the pale lager, the Norway pale lager was probably the most boring style of beer I've ever seen out of Sawdust City. And that's not saying anything bad about Sawdust City. They are one of my favorite breweries in Ontario. It's just stating, looking at their lineup of beers, it might be the most boring style they've had. Let's give it a sniff, shall we? Yep, smells almost... Oh, it smells kind of like a mixture of an Irish red and a Marzen. It does have that very, very four-fronted caramel scent, but it also has a little bit of a roastiness and caramel roast and a tiny touch of molasses out of the glass. Out of the can, oh, the can gives off more of that roastiness and a little bit more of the caramel, less of the molasses. So, I mean, not as sweet smelling out of the can, but it smells beautiful both ways. Let's give the beer a try, shall we? Shall we try the beer? Shall we try the beer? Cheerio. Light mouthfeel, light carbonation, right off the bat. Other than that, the only beer I've ever had from Sawdust City, like I said, that has as little flavor or at least as little complexity is probably the Little Norway Pale Lager, which was basically a perfect example of a pale lager. This is probably a perfect example of a fest beer, of a Marzen, of anything like that. This is fairly boring for me. But is it a good beer? Yes, it's a very drinkable beer. It's a very, very approachable beer. There's nothing wrong with this beer. Low ABV, so you could drink a lot of it. Flavor, basically like I smelt. A little bit of roastiness and a little bit of caramel, with a little bit of bready, slightly earthy finish. So a slightly earthy like English-esque finish with a little bit of breadiness. Not as cut grass or spicy or herbal as a lot of other beers of the style can give off, but still in the range that it's supposed to be, and the malt profile is pretty much perfect. This is a beer that if it was cold, you could just chug back can after can of it. And even here at basement temperature, I am sorry, I don't normally do that twice. And I won't cut it out because I just won't. I could, but I won't. But I do apologize. Slightly, at least. Very approachable, very easy drinking. You could just chug back this stuff all day long. It's not like say their Blood of Cthulhu or their Butter Tart Beer or their Skinny Dipping Stout or Long Voyage to Uranus or Long Bloody Voyage to Uranus or wow, it's a gassy one though. or any of their, like, I love their dark beers. I love their dark beers. They're amazing. And I love a lot of their IPAs and stuff. They're amazing. This isn't like those. This is just easily accessible, drinkable beer that anyone could touch and have no problem with. And for that, I think they deserve a 7 out of 10. I could see myself buy this again. I just think it's one of the least exciting beers I've had in a while. But that's perfectly okay. Every once in a while you want a good, boring beer, and today is one of those days. Again, Sam, I'm not bad-mouthing you in any way. You know I love you. Just where I think of this beer compared to your lineup of beers. I think this is one of the most boring of them all. I also think it is a very solid beer. Cheers, guys. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you for watching, and bye.